Shane Steichen moving through his first workouts with the Indianapolis Colts. They've done the initial meeting and that kind of thing. What's he feel about the team? We asked him, and a lot of questions were asked, a lot of answers were given. This is a man with organized thoughts. He answers questions quickly and to the point, and you move on to the next one. There is no wasted time, and I dig it.
New coach.
Yeah, just getting right now. We just had our first team meeting Monday. Just getting to know the guys. We're going through the installs right now, and really just creating those relationships with those guys and really getting to know them. You know, a lot of these guys, first time seeing them in person. There are a few guys, you know, here the last couple weeks that have popped in, and a lot of guys just came back. So really just connecting with those guys, getting to know them, and installing the system.
What's the message? Like, this team's coming off a really just difficult season, and I know you weren't here, but in April, everyone has a lot of optimism, right? The draft's coming, there's hope. What is your message as you start this?
Let's just get better every single day. Let's do whatever we can in our power as coaches and players to be better than we were yesterday. You know what I mean? And just the connection and really getting to know the guys. Like I said earlier, I think that's the biggest thing is for us to be the best we can, like we really got to get to know each other and create those relationships.
When you guys were in Philly, Nick said that you guys, especially when the staff first got there, you did a lot of stuff together to kind of get to know each other. Is the offensive staff kind of doing that kind of stuff right now, or are you kind of trying to find stuff for them to do?
Yeah, we've been doing a couple of those things over the past, 2 months that I've been here, just kind of outside the building, creating those connections, whether it's dinner or going to a basketball game, went to the Pacers game as a staff, which was awesome to see those guys play. But all those little things outside the building to create those relationships, yeah.
How important is that when you have, there are some guys that you know before, but there's some guys you pulled in, just off of interviews. How important is that in terms of? Yeah,
there's no question. I talked about it, the character piece, and then creating the chemistry within the staff and, with the team. I think that's big, when you can create really good chemistry within the staff and you guys are all pulling in the same direction, everyone's on the same page, things can be special.
Shane, when you talk to the players, even the coaches, does last year come up or is everything forward? Is there no value?
It's all about now. It's all it is. It's all about this year. Whatever happened in the past, and we're focused on the present right now.
You guys have been busy meeting with some quarterbacks the last couple of weeks. This week, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You feel good about what you guys have learned and where you're at?
Yeah, we're still going through that process. We're 15 days away from the draft and still working through all those things.
When you talk with the players, can you tell if your message is getting through to them?
Yeah,
I realize it's just the first time.
Yeah, it's the first time. It's early. Again, I got to keep creating those relationships and those guys really getting to know me. It's only been a couple days, but again, every day you got to be intentional with what you're doing as coaches and players about creating those relationships and getting to know them.
Shane, what would you like your players to know about you?
That I'm going to be who I am. I'm just a passionate guy that loves ball, and that I want to feed the positive, weed out all the negative, and be my very best every day I can to support these guys in their roles, because I know how hard it is to play in this league, being around it for going into my 13th season, what these guys go through week in and week out to get ready to play on Sundays. It ain't easy, and I respect everything they do.
As you just addressed, you guys have spent a lot of time zeroing on these quarterbacks in this draft. There is outside a lot of noise, or has been a lot of noise about what other options you might look into, Lamar Jackson or others. Mm-hmm. Is it fair to say you're more focused on the draft than any other possibilities right now?
Yeah, we're focused on the draft, and I'm focused on the guys that are in the building right now. That's where we're at.
I don't want to call it a pinch me moment, but we talk to a lot of guys who go from assistant GM to GM or OC to head coach.
Yeah.
Now that you're in the job, has there been a moment that's like, wow, this is a little bit different?
But there's more administrative stuff that come across your desk. It's been good to get the guys back in the building. We just had some meetings and just install and get back into the football side of it, which has been really good. But yeah, just getting used to the administrative stuff and all the stuff that will come across your desk, that's new for me.
You had these first 2 months a lot of personnel work, obviously, with coaching staff. Is this week kind of refreshing, getting back into kind of install a scheme now?
Yeah, there's no question about it. I love the X's and O's part of it. Teaching these guys, being around the guys, creating the connections part of it. There ain't nothing like it. I think it's the best job in America to do what we do as coaches and players, to be in the National Football League, and I'll never take it for granted. And it's been awesome.
What kind of environment do you want to see here with the players? What kind of expectations have you laid out?
Yeah, just really, you guys have heard me talk about the pillars, the character, the preparation, the consistency, and being relentless, but just really creating those connections, because I truly do. The teams that play really hard for each other are really connected. And, we kind of had that going in Philly last year, just the way our guys were, how close, tight-knit they were. like I think the best teams around the league, when you create that connection part of it, it can be really special. So really creating the connections and the expectations are just, again, like just be the best you can at version of yourself and go hard every day.
Shane,
Are you a
you have
leadership council guy? Like you want your players to have a leadership council? And if you are a leadership council guy, they had one last year. Those
Yeah.
guys all automatically, are they?
Yeah, no, we'll have that, and we'll vote on that here in a couple weeks. We'll all have one of those, yes.
Shane, you knew you had to hit the ground running when you got the job, and you had your plan in place. It seemed like you were very organized. Do you like the way everything's proceeded? Obviously, you have different hurdles to still attack.
Yeah. Again, I do feel pleased with the process of where it's at. Coming in, obviously we got the voluntary mini camp coming up, so excited to get on the grass with these guys. But the process has been good. Excited from with the future and what it holds.
When you got here, you hadn't really seen a lot of this team, I imagine, because you were somewhere else.
Right.
How much you talk about looking forward? How much of tape or otherwise have you watched though, just to kind of learn a little bit about what's in the building and what have you learned, maybe?
Yeah, I think again I've said this before when I got hired. There's some talent, on this team, and again I'm still getting to know these guys. The big thing for me is when we get out there on the grass to really see them live and in person. The tape tells a story, which is good, and the tape tells a lot of truth. But again, to get them in person and see their body movements and see what they do well and how we want to use these guys offensively, defensively, and special teams.
Can you tell anything about how they learned these first few days? Because you're probably throwing a lot at them, and it's all new, right? You have
Yeah,
system.
today was like the first day we really started X's and O's. The first 2 days, whatever, we're just kind of getting to know these guys, welcome back, weight room, and then just creating those connections. And then today we start talking football offensively.
You mentioned putting the offense together with Jim Bob. Where is that at? Is that still ongoing, sort of figuring out what it's going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, the terminology is in place. Again, and like I said, it comes down to the players. We want to do a good job of putting our players in position to make plays. And so, again,
see them out there.
And see them out there and then kind of create the offense from that standpoint. That's how we want to do it.
When it comes to teaching that offense to these players, how much does it help to have a quarterback like Gardner Minshew, who you've worked with in the past, who I'm guessing knows some of that terminology?
Yeah, no, it's huge. Anytime you got a guy that knows the system, knows the terminology, you can kind of hit the ground running with him. So excited to add Gardner to the fold, and he'll be good for us.
With 15 days to go to the draft, what's left in terms of preparing for the draft and taking a look at your quarterbacks?
Yeah, I think just turning over every stone. Don't leave any stone unturned, because you want to find out as much information you can on all these prospects and go through that process. And that means calling as many people as you can to find out that information. That's what you got to do. And then again, going back and watching the tape over and over and over again. Because again, there's not a crystal ball to hey, this guy is a guarantee, right? But you want to do your due diligence and process to try to find the best players.
Shane, when you bring those guys in your building or you go visit the quarterback prospects outside, what are you looking for? What's the biggest thing you're looking for?
I'm looking for good guys. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I'm looking for good guys. Obviously, there's the tangibles and the intangibles, and I'm not going to get into all the details of what I look for, but really, I want good guys in this building.
You get more from the interviews or the workouts?
I think it's both. I mean, the workouts, you kind of know from the film, but then you see them in person, but really getting to know them. I think that's a big part of this process, is really getting to know who that person is, the work ethic, the character, all those little different things that you want in a player.
Shane, how many guys are in the building right now and today? And how's Darius Shaq learning?
Darius, Shaq, he's been progressing well. I'm not going to put a timetable on his return, but we've had good attendance.
You guys, from what I hear, you put these quarterbacks with the individual workouts. They're pretty intense. Without getting into details, just what are you trying to accomplish there, and is that intentional?
Yeah, I mean, we just have our process of how we want to do it, and just put them through certain things that we want to see them do, that we could do offensively here, and that's it. Like I said, I'm not going to get into too much of that.
Shane, one of the things that you had, part of the success in Philly was you had a kicker you could trust and you relied on. Having that guy here, how does that impact, I guess, how you head coach?
Yeah, no, it's big. Anytime you got a really good kicker that's done it at a high level the last couple of years, it helps. I think this league's all about scoring points, and however you need to do that, touchdowns, field goals, to get points on the board is critical. So to have a kicker like A is huge.
Shane, you talk about finding good guys. Is there something else you're looking for, particularly when it comes to quarterback, because of the pressure they're going to be faced with when they're looking at it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just the tangibles, right? You guys heard me talk about the accuracy, decision-making, ability to create, and then all the intangibles, like the character piece. I'm going to go back to that. Like, I just think that's critical. Like, how does the guy carry himself day in and day out? Is he going to hold himself accountable? All those different things. There's little nuances to everything, but again, the character piece is big to me.
Do you seek out those moments of like when they face adversity, when they fail, to see like, because everyone right now is great.
Yeah, those are questions you ask throughout the process. You know, guys have been through certain adversity. How do they handle adversity? You know, how have they dug themselves out of a hole? And I think a lot of guys that are in this league have been through adversity. It ain't easy, you know, to be in this league as a player, as a coach, to get here. There's a lot of things that go on, and I think a lot of guys have been through it. Some greater than others to get to this point, but. I think everybody in life, whether it's football or life, people are going to go through adversity. And like you said, it's how do you handle it?
Can you get a real, like, legit feel for the character of these guys in 2 hours?
That to me, that's the vetting process.
Or do they just give you the answers you want to hear?
Yeah, sometimes they could. Some guys could do that, but again, it's the vetting process that you go through, right? You've got to call as many people as you can, right? Guys that you trust and know that'll give you good information.
There's this S2 test that has replaced the Wonderlic.
Mhm.
People seem kind of split on it, but in terms of evaluating these quarterbacks, what's your take on it so far?
You know, those tests are good. I'm not going to get into too many details on them, but yeah, guys have their take. Again, I'm not going to get into too much of that.
When you talk about building culture, how do you find the balance of like wanting to implement your changes but not forcing it, into some people who have to just kind of get it on their own organically?
Yeah, I think that some of that stuff it does happen organically, you know what I mean? But I think it really goes back to creating those relationships. Like, culture is just a word, but like, it can't just be like words that live on a board in your meeting room and in your weight room and in your locker room. Like, again, you got to be intentional about creating that culture, right? Every single day, live those things, live the character piece, live the preparation piece, live the consistency, and be relentless. Like, I got to be the same guy, and I would expect our players to be the same guy every single day.
That's Shane Steichen, and the thing that struck me and struck Michael Pittman too, he is tall. He is a tall guy. Shane Steichen, big in stature and hopefully big in leadership, because the Colts are going to need every bit of it. He didn't tell us much, but he told us a little bit about what he expects from his team, how it's going to work, how it's going to function. Didn't learn what he's looking for in the draft, but nobody expected to.